Let's get back, remember.
Yep, we're live now on YouTube. And now on TikTok. All right.
All right.
And we'll see if our YouTubers can chat. They couldn't in the early one, but my settings say they can chat, so I'm not sure why they couldn't. But here we are.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday. Good afternoon for those of you who are not on the West Coast.
I tell you, we're having
technical difficulties.
We're having weird stuff going on. It's been a weird day on my technical side, so we'll see. Hopefully you YouTubers can say hi.
And also, when are we not having technical difficulties?
It's crazy. I don't know if we're just trying to do things beyond my capacity or what, but it looks like our TikTokers can hear us at least, so I guess that helps.
Okay, good. I need to adjust a little bit so I can see the comments.
Okay.
Hey, there we are.
Let's see. We're
okay.
Maybe we'll put it down there. How about that?
That's perfect.
All right, YouTubers, let me know if you can comment on YouTube.
Hello from Maine. Maine, that has to be an absolutely gorgeous part of the country, although covered in snow, I would imagine.
Diane Bergeron Bennett. All right, yeah.
Well,
we have some friends in Maine. Where is young Pastor Paul? I don't know.
Probably your son. His name is Sam, though.
Yeah. Hi from California. We're in California too.
And by the way, so I don't know if any of you know how Paul came about his handle, Old Pastor Paul. So after spending a lot of time like trying to reach people on Facebook and to try to explain that like maybe they needed to take a different approach to faith and politics, whatever, and just getting blasted day after day after day by boomers who were like, no, you're never going to take my Republican Jesus from me. And I'm telling you, Paul would just be like, I hate these people. So somebody said, go on TikTok, and it's where all the young people are and they have more open minds. And so Paul was like, well, I'll go on TikTok.
I'm too old to be on TikTok.
So that's where Old Pastor Paul came from.
Kristen says, hi, Ashley.
Hey, how you doing?
And Roscoe says he's walking his dog. So
perfect.
Good for listening in.
Good morning.
Washington State is in the house. So I don't know if our YouTubers can comment because it didn't allow them earlier. The settings say they can, but I don't know. Maybe, like I say, I'm getting shadow banned everywhere. So maybe I'm shadow banned on YouTube as well. I don't know. Columbus, Ohio, snow covered here. What times are you live? We go live every Saturday at 10:30. I do 10:30 Pacific, and I do a Bible chat at 9, which I did this morning at 9 Pacific.
And then you do a Sunday morning spiritual gathering.
Yeah.
For anybody who wants to do a little more, I don't know, religious kind of thing.
Yeah, it's more of a kind of an online church service, I guess you could say. Oh, the UK is in the house. I'm hesitant to tell of it because we got in trouble for doing too long of a commercial this week. Somebody saying you do too much commercials.
Oh, but maybe that. Okay, so first of all, Paul and I struggle with being succinct, so I just have to own that. But also, I don't think it was about that. I think it was probably promoting your like support on Patreon that we were going on about.
Okay.
But somebody told us last week that we had 15 minutes of commercials, so we feel a little sensitive this week.
But yes, 10 a.m. on Sunday, you can join us online. pastor-paul.com is the website. And if you go to the events contact page, it has a Zoom link, so you can join us in the service, or we stream it live on TikTok.
Yeah. So thanks for saying where you're from, you guys. Like,
Chula Vista.
If this is your first time popping in on a live that Paul and I do, honestly, it's probably our most favorite thing is seeing where people are from. And there's something that sparks in us when we just think about, people listening from all these different places. If you're hanging out with us, then you probably are a person who is hoping for change in your community, believing in a God that is maybe different than what's being presented by the religious political church these days. And we just get excited thinking there are other people out there who, who maybe have a similar approach. So we get excited for your communities when we see them that flash up. So yay. So
we had Alberta, Canada,
I saw that.
Virginia, Massachusetts, Kentucky, Salt Lake City,
Alabama.
Bama.
Here we go.
We're rolling.
We are covering. Yeah. So
All right. Do we want to jump into topics? We have people already asking questions, but
yeah, I think we should do a little bit of topics and
Okay.
then although I just want to say, I did see one really good question right out of the gate. It's sort of like a Paul Swearingen softball.
Okay.
How do you feel about the way the church is spreading hate in these today, or something like that? So
go watch the video I did yesterday.
watch any of Paul's videos.
Well, yeah, but the last 2 days I've done 2 really good posts that I'm really proud of. And one yesterday was what should Christianity look like? And the one the day before that was questions for the Christian church. So yeah, go check those out. Those will tell you what I think about the church spreading hate and all of that. So,
Yay.
Ooh, Honolulu, Hawaii.
Colorado.
Yeah.
So exciting. Gosh, I literally wish that I could just have an hour-long conversation with every single person from all these different places and to be like, what is it like to live there? What are you seeing every day? What are your hopes and dreams for your family, for the neighborhood you live in, for the work that you do there? Like, there's just something about geographic place and community that gets me pretty fired up.
And if you're watching on YouTube on the Pastor Paul channel, which is where, those of you are on TikTok, check out my YouTube channel. That's where I usually do something 60 seconds long in TikTok, and I'll do something longer on YouTube. But in the Bible chat this morning, people couldn't comment on YouTube for some reason, even though the settings say you can. So I don't know. Social media is not my friend these days. So
We're
I'm
struggling.
sorry. I'm sorry if you
honestly,
can't comment.
It would be great if there's anybody out there who has all this stuff nailed that would be willing to help Paul kind of piece his stuff together. We're looking for some help.
I'm not sure how they could do it. But
Can I just put my hand over my heart for a second? I saw someone said they're from Arkansas. Was raised there. I am a proud Arkansan.
I was going to say, does that make you an Arkansan?
It does.
Okay.
I was raised in Fort Smith, Arkansas. Paul has family in outside of Fayetteville.
Rogers.
Right? Rogers, and my parents are alums of the University of Arkansas. So
nice. You guys make my heart. Oh, Amber says you make my heart happy and hopeful.
Thank you.
I love that.
We feel the same about.
Why is it Arkansas, by the way?
What is
Why
opposed to?
you have Kansas?
Yeah.
And Arkansas. Why is it not Arkansas?
I don't know.
Okay.
No,
Fayetteville. There's a Fayetteville right there.
Yes.
Isn't that where the university is?
Yes.
University of Arkansas.
And by the way, so gosh, I was there from 70. Let's see. Well, no, this is going to age me. I'll be old Pastor Ashley here for a second. 76 to 87. All right. And my goodness, I have heard, and I haven't been in decades and decades, that Fayetteville and the University of Arkansas is just like a phenomenal place now.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't necessarily that way when I was there. It was getting there.
So I grew up in Missouri.
Yeah.
And many people who live in Missouri call it Missouri, which I always thought was really weird, even when I lived in Missouri. But I think it's Missouri, but some would say it's Missouri. I would say it's the home of Josh Howley now, and a place that I'm happy I don't live. But other than that, is a whole nother thing. Well, I saw something interesting there. Oh, where can I find the podcast? pastor-paul.com. It'll take you to the podcast site. Or Nonpartisan Evangelical, wherever you get your podcast, on Spotify or Apple Podcast, or you name it, we're out there on all of them. So, all right.
Okay, so we had to just answer this question. Have y'all thought about touring and speaking at evangelical churches? Yes. Do you actually think any evangelical church would invite us? No. Therefore, we spend our Saturday mornings on TikTok going live to the people, because we've gotten a lot of feedback from our circle of evangelical churches, which we come from. I was raised Southern Baptist. Paul was raised Assemblies of God. So the funny thing is, like, our stories are like, we read the exact same Sunday school curriculum. We sang the exact same hymns. You know, every little thing about our churches were identical, except for Baptists believe once saved, always saved, and Assemblies of God people spoke in tongues and believed in more charismatic things.
And we thought the other was going to hell.
I was raised believing that not only do you need to ask Jesus into your heart to be your Lord and Savior, but then also you need to fill out membership at a Southern Baptist church to go to heaven. Like, you have to have both church membership and say the sinner's prayer.
Well, and I was talking about that in the Bible chat this morning, that we always say, oh, it's all grace. It's all grace. It's all the grace of God. And of course, there's this verse that you have to follow, but it's all grace.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's this other rule
Yeah.
that's going to send you to hell, but it's all grace.
And Jesus is everything. He's all you need, unless you screw up this week, in which case then you're going to hell. So you got to come back next Sunday and get saved again. That was your church experience.
Yes, absolutely. And well, the church service wouldn't end until 3 people came to the altar to confess their sins.
Yeah.
And so you had some people that would just do that every week. That would help speed that up so you could get to lunch.
In the Baptist church, it was not just come confess your sins, it was come get saved. And like, which is hard because if you don't have any visitors and you believe once saved, always saved. Like we had this one lady who would always go forward, Ann Curtis, God bless her, rest her soul. I'm sure she's passed by now. But anyway, so she would get saved like very frequently, and I would always be like, wait, she got saved last week. I thought once you got saved you couldn't lose your salvation.
I did want to comment on one other thing and then we can do this. So
Okay.
This is Ruben, who says, I just came out as trans. How would you deal with rejection from the church that disagrees with this? I talk about this a lot. I don't know. So I mean, mostly what I just say is, Ruben, you be you. We love you. We think you're amazing. I think God thinks you're amazing. The end of my video that I did yesterday was like, why don't we just say we're sorry, church, to the people that we've traumatized with the shame we put on people. So mostly I just want to say, I'm sorry that that's been your experience with the church. We've just been taught really poorly what the Bible says and who God is and how we're supposed to react. So in some ways I have grace for evangelical people because they've just been taught really poorly, and we've all come to kind of this groupthink belief. But at the same time, that doesn't excuse the massive amount of trauma that we've put on people. And so yeah. I'm sorry, Ruben, that has been your experience. And I just want to say God loves you. So how do you deal with it? I say don't expose yourself to it. If you can't find a community that believes you're fully worthwhile and fully worthy of God's love and worthy to participate in that community in any way you choose and feel is your way to go, then don't be a part of that community.
Yeah.
Because you deserve to be loved and valued.
You know, you actually heard this week from, was it a mom of a trans woman and then another trans person? So, and the mom of the trans person was saying, like, what am I going to do? Because I know my church, how they're going to react about my child. And like, I'm just going to have to, I'm paraphrasing, but like, I'm just going to have to take them out, you know, if they go after my child. And we just were both so inspired by that mom's heart for her child. And just like, I hope, Ruben, that you've got that kind of love and support in your life. And then I saw someone in the chat say, go to an LGBTQ plus accepting church. I think that's a really fantastic suggestion. And, you know, I'm seeing already a good number of comments about like people having crises of faith. And maybe that's a good place for us to jump in on our week, because we had kind of a similar experience with a friend of ours, and I won't go into detail, but just we are seeing this a lot, you guys, like people, exactly what's being expressed in the chat. Like there's more evidence to walk away from faith than to stay connected and committed. So maybe take us through that, how you're thinking about it.
I'm thinking about my faith.
Yeah. Because you've been on a journey.
Well, I would say for one, so a couple of other great creators on TikTok, April A. Joy, Jeremy, that pastor from Oklahoma, we've started a new page together called Evangelicalish. And I say that not to do a commercial for it, but do go check it out. And we're going to do a live stream together Wednesday night. But, you know, it's interesting because Jeremy's still on staff at a church, but all of us have been walking through a journey, and whether we would call it a crisis of faith or just our eyes being open to like, oh, wow, this doesn't look great. We're there. And so many are. You're not alone in all of a sudden saying, hey, this stuff doesn't make sense, because we've all had to like be a little bit disconnected from some true things of like, that doesn't really make sense, but I really love these people. I really love this church and I love my faith, until it gets to a point where you're just like, I can't be a part of this anymore. And, even talking about political ideology, I'm still registered Republican and I'm like, can I be a Republican anymore? This party's disgusting. I don't want my name affiliated with this.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
And so those crises, so part of the thing is you get to mourn it, you get to feel badly. And one of the things I was saying yesterday, Rachel Held Evans wrote a book called Searching for Sunday. And she said, the way I am with my faith, as she left her evangelical background, is, she said, I'm like the girl that breaks up with her ex, but then checks his Facebook page every day, hoping, something has changed. And so I think that's where I am with kind of the church that I grew up with, is like, I wish it would change, but I'm very much in a season where I'm like, oh, it's never going to change. This is this. And in fact, maybe this is what it is. And this is what it's always been. And so now, and I really am hesitant to do this sometimes, but I find myself more and more telling people like, hey, you need to get out of that church, because that's trauma and abuse when some of those things are happening. And the hopeful side of it is, I believe God wants us to have crises of faith. I think he wants us to challenge our beliefs on a regular basis, because we're going to find something new and different and amazing in God's character as we do so. So don't be afraid to lean into that unknown. It's okay not to have all the answers and to be learning and growing. It's actually really good. It's good for a human being to do that, and really exciting. And I don't know, I feel like I get to love people the way I never have before. I get to read the Bible the way I never have before, and I love it.
I want to just do a quick shout out here, because Metastatic Millennial says, hi, Pastor, I got into my clinical trial. Thank you for praying. And she put that in there twice. So I want to make sure that you saw that.
Right.
So that's
Tori,
awesome.
I think Tori is your name. And she has terminal cancer, if I remember correctly.
Oh my goodness.
So Tori, I think that, I hope I have your name right.
Wow.
So we are praying with you.
Okay. Yeah. Well, everyone who's listening, I hope we've got the name right. But
I believe it's
God
Tori.
knows,
I think
we're
I'm
talking
right.
about Tori. Yeah. Just let's be praying for Tori for miraculous intervention in medicine and the best scientists and doctors. Okay, so I want to react to what you just said and say a little bit. So, by the way, yes, it's Tori. Okay, good.
All right, good. Yes, yeah. Tori. Man, I'm happy to hear that. Thank you. I'm glad you caught that.
Yeah. So we always kind of start off our little Saturday morning thing being like, all right, we want to share our lives. We want to share our week and really see where the conversation goes. So our plan was to do that and just kind of reflect on things that stood out for the week and then see where the conversation takes us. But I think seeing the comments in the chat, and you posted a couple of videos on this point this week about, just kind of coming out of the evangelical church, et cetera. I want to share kind of what my experience was like being attached to you going through this. Okay. And I'll be short, I promise. So I guess I'm one of those people who currents of faith run really deep in me. And it's not hard. It makes me emotional thinking about it. It's just not hard for me to connect to faith. And I don't ask a lot of questions, to be honest. I'm a little more of like just doer, like get things done, working mom, get things done. I don't spend a lot of time doing existential kinds of thinking. I, of course, see the disgustingness that is the Republican right. I mean, the religious right, like, of course. But in my mind, I'm like, yeah, well, I don't believe it, chunk it, move on. I don't kind of focus on it. And so, but I'm married to somebody who has a different approach and a kind of a different gifting in this area. And then our daughter is also very existential in her thinking and always asking pondering life's big questions. So I'm going along my happy way. Yeah, all this stuff is nonsense. Doesn't everybody know that's not really God? That's just man-made stuff. And my husband's like, hey, I think I'm going to leave the church. And I'm just like, Oh, wait, what are we doing? What are we
You
saying?
mean like not go
Not
back to
pastoring.
regular
Well,
attendance?
it started with I need to step out of the pastorate, which I understood that entirely because, to be honest, like pastoring a startup church for 10 years, like that's a long time. And people get tired of you get tired of people. It was like the right time.
We were
to
mutually
transition.
tired of each other. Oh,
Apologies.
Our camera just fell.
Camera just fell.
Sorry, YouTube.
Like we watched for maybe a
Sorry.
couple of weeks on TV, and then we were like, actually, we're kind of feeling like that season is totally done for us. And
Keep talking. I know it's hard.
all right. And so I have been on a little bit of a roller coaster and not knowing like where am I supposed to be anchored. Here's where I come down. I so value and appreciate like his pursuit, because I know his heart is pure and is after the like God stuff, not man stuff, God stuff. So I realize that without Paul in my life, I would probably be, I don't know what I would be. But anyway, so I value that. But also I just need to find a place where I can be like, hey, if I can just reflect on who I have experienced God to be in my own personal prayer time or worship time or whatever, if I can just like shut out the noise and be like think about the love that's expressed through Jesus and meditate on that, then all the other stuff kind of like, I don't really need to answer some of these big questions that you always feel the need to answer. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think we've learned to work well together in that. Yeah. So I see a lot of you talking about your journey, some asking if I had studied other faiths. I've landed at the place. I've tried being an atheist at one point in my life in college, and I've looked at other things, and I realize now. I was on a podcast with an atheist the other night. I said, and I totally realize my belief is probably socialization as much as anything. I grew up in a Christian home. It was what we believed. It's how we viewed God through the prism of the Christian Bible. And that's probably where I'm going to end up in my life. And I'm okay with that. I've definitely come to a place where I don't have to convince you to become, is the microphone in your way of the comments? Let's see if we can fix that somehow. I don't know if that works. And I'm way less, everything in our life, and I put the web address in, it's the Nonpartisan Evangelical Podcast. Everything in my life growing up was dictated around my parents' fear that we were going to end up in hell one day. And that if we just took one misstep, we were going to end up in hell.
But also, let's be honest, that was driven by that, but also what are people going to think about us here on earth? And that's right up in there.
That's a big part of it, because my dad was a pastor, and so we were very concerned about that. But
they're asking about the podcast you did with the atheist. I think that's not been released
that's not
yet.
Been released yet.
Will you put it up on your page?
I will. Okay. I will. And it'll be in the newsletter. If you go to the website, pastor-paul.com, you can sign up for our Insiders newsletter. We'll have it in there. I think they're holding it. This actually is pretty cool. He told me we're holding it because we're going to join a new network, and we want your show to be the first one on the new network. So yeah. Love that. And his name is David C. Smalley. You can find him on TikTok as well. But yeah, so much of my life growing up and through really meeting this woman was dictated by, I don't want to go to hell, or a determination of like, well, I'm going to hell, so I might as well just be a real wretched human being on earth. And so now I'm convinced that we really have misinterpreted that you really start looking at hell in the Bible, and it really talks very little about this eternal fire damnation thing. And so I say, I'm not dictated by my fear of going to hell anymore, or trying to keep anybody else from hell. Because whatever hell's going to be, it's not going to be a trick question. I was actually telling the story in Bible chat of being in a Pizza Hut as a kid, And do you remember the song "Cold as Ice" by Foreigner? Do you like?
Did
You're
you
as
sing?
cold as ice, willing to sacrifice. Anyway, and I liked the song. It's a terrible song, but I liked it then. And I was just sitting there in Pizza Hut going, Jesus forgive me, Jesus forgive me, Jesus forgive me, because
Oh,
I
because you
really
were,
liked this song and I wanted to listen
yeah,
to this song. But I was certain that if I liked this song and Jesus came and the rapture happened at that moment, I would be left behind,
yeah.
left behind. And I just, I mean, I think that is significant shame and trauma we're putting on people. And so heaven, hell is not going to be a trick question. It's not going to be like, oh, you picked door number one and you should have picked door number two. Like, let's make a deal. It's going to be all about the connection to the creator of the universe. And so let's just get off some of the nuttiness of like, well, if you don't tell gay people they're going to hell, you're a false teacher. I mean, this stuff is ridiculous. So let's get off
Well,
of it.
in my version of that Foreigner song is, so my dad, this will be like kind of evangelical church trivia for some of you. Do you remember EE?
EE.
Evangelism
Oh,
Explosion?
Evangelism Explosion. I
Okay,
was thinking of
so
a rock band named EE.
sorry, no, but like, so my dad was on staff at a large Southern Baptist church in Northwest Arkansas in the 70s and 80s, and this was during the D. James Kennedy, um, the evangelism wave, I guess, and they were doing EE schools and training people from all over the world. My dad in Arkansas, people would come from all over the world to go to his school, and people go to Florida and get this training. And it was all about how to ask people 2 questions. And you wore a little lapel pin that had 2 question marks on them. And the first question is, if you were to die today, do you know if you would go to heaven or hell? And then number 2, if you were standing before God in the gates of heaven and he asked you, why should I let you in? What would you say? Okay. So they trained millions of people on those 2 questions and what are the right answers. And I remember rehearsing the answers in my head, like I know the answer. I'm going to be okay. So anyway, that's kind of the same.
Well, you keep talking. I'll read the comments.
Okay.
I don't know if you're stopping because you're reading comments or
Yeah.
or you made your point.
No, I think I made my point. But my point was really like, I remember probably being 3 years old, 4 years old, and like my dad coming in for a hug, and all I saw were those, that little lapel EE, and I was like, what are those questions? Like from the crib, I could be like, yes, let me in, God, because I trust your son, my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Now let me in. It was like, open sesame, let me in the gates.
Yeah.
And so I like what you're saying about what you have adjusted is that you no longer feel that it's your responsibility to evangelize people and that you don't think there's a trick question about.
I have to do this
God.
because our
Okay.
iPad just keeps sliding down as we go, but I can't fix that.
So I think that is a helpful way to think about, post-evangelicalism.
Yeah, I mean, and post-evangelicalism is a great word, because people think, no, we have to tell gay people they're wrong because that's love to keep them from going to hell. Totally not realizing, and Ruben, I did see that you thanked me for the comment, you thanked us for the comment, and we're so happy that we're able to affirm you, because we wouldn't have been able to do that a few years ago, because we'd have been, well, we want to love Ruben, but we really do need to tell him he's going to hell. And it's just so crazy. Yeah, people are putting their their sin song. Kristen's is Witchy Woman. I saw somebody else said Eagles and Steve Miller Band. Yes, all of those things.
And for me, it was going to Disney movies. I mean, you guys remember Snow White the cartoon? There was a really dramatic animated witch, and it caught like my parents. I give my parents great credit for this because we were in this world that said like boycott Disney, etc. They were like, that's probably a little too far. They would let us taste and sample like worldly things. And so I got to see that movie, but I remember thinking I was probably in trouble for seeing it.
So I love it. So yeah, go ahead and share what was going to send you to hell as a child. It's really funny. And we, it's funny that right wingers, I kissed a girl and I liked it. Right wingers today are talking about cancel culture. Oh, leftists are canceling us on social media. Oh, Christians perfected cancel culture. We were the best. Teletubbies, oh my goodness, you were going to hell if
I
you watched
mean,
Teletubbies.
condemning someone to eternal hell is the ultimate.
Is
with
ultimate.
your words and your thoughts and your
Yeah.
actions is the ultimate cancel culture.
But boy, we boycotted Disney. I can't even, purity culture. So many, I see a lot of TikTok accounts now with young adult women telling how traumatic purity culture was in their life. And I heard somebody telling the story the other day about being in one of these meetings and the leader, a man, of course, taking out a piece of gum and putting it in his mouth and chewing it and pulling it out and saying, young women, if you have sex, this is you. You are a chewed up piece of gum, and think how horrifying that that's what we told young women.
By the way, someone reminded that Procter and Gamble, we boycotted Procter and Gamble. Why? I remember that. Well, I don't remember.
Well, because they had a 666 in their logo. They had this hidden 666 in their logo.
Gotcha. Okay. Satan worshiping.
Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah. KISS, Kings in Satan's Service.
Knights in Satan's.
Is it Knights? I heard Kings. I always heard Kings.
No, I think it was Knights.
They banned well, they didn't ban Teletubbies. They just said one of the Teletubbies was gay.
Yeah.
And your kids were going to go to hell if they watched Teletubbies. So you had to turn off
and
Teletubbies.
It was also kind of like New Agey. So it was like homosexual. It was a homosexual agenda and a new age agenda merged into one child show, and it was going to take over your kids' brains. It is actually kind of a creepy
being
show.
Totally honest, I thought it was one of the creepiest shows I've ever seen in my life.
But we didn't let our daughter watch it.
We didn't let our kids watch it
just
because it was creepy. I think a pedophile made that show or something. It was creepy, but I the kids weren't going to hell for watching it. We didn't. Our kids never stopped kidding us because we didn't let our kids watch Harry Potter.
Yeah, but that was scary. I mean, they were 8 and 3. I mean, that's why we didn't let them watch it then. 9 and 4.
But we did let the kids read Hunger Games and then watch the Hunger Games movies, right?
Yeah.
Our kids had it pretty easy compared to us. Look how the iPad is sliding down now. Someday, guys, we'll figure this all out.
I know. You know what? I have to trust that people are not expecting this to be a really polished live production, because if that is your expectation, we have already missed it and you probably are not watching anymore. But let's just kind of reset a little bit. We know that folks kind of pop in and out of these lives, so you may just be tuning in and being like, what is this? And so Pastor Paul, I'm Ashley. Nonpartisan Evangelical, pastor-paul.com is Paul's website. You can find podcasts and support on Patreon if you want to get involved there. I have been mayor of Fresno, California from 2009, through 2016. So I've been active in elected office and do community and economic development now in Central California. And we are openly talking about how it's time for religion and politics to be permanently divorced. And this has been our message for a long, long time. And those are the kinds of things that we talk about here. And Saturday morning is our weekly share. So keeping with the theme of kind of coming out of the evangelical church, you had something happen this week that was affirming for you in your journey. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Are you talking about the dream?
I am talking about the dream.
Okay. Yeah. So how do I tell this story? So it's kind of funny. I've been telling people I'm shadow banned on TikTok, and
can I just say real quick, by the way, I saw someone shared this live. Would you guys just take a second? Would you hit that share arrow, the sharrow, as we like to call it?
The sharrow.
Because we are trying to outsmart, I won't say algorithm because I don't want to flag the computer. So I'll say malgorithm or logarithm, or I'll use code that only human beings can understand. But can you just share the live? Because it's been a really weird slowdown but we're seeing that a lot of people are saying that on TikTok.
And like I said, a lot of creators are saying they've seen a weird slowdown, but I don't think I've checked a lot of my creator friends that I follow, and I don't think anybody's had a slowdown like I have.
We have the worst slowdown in all of TikTok.
I think it's religious oppression, but that's it. No, I'm kidding. It's cancel culture. It's just, I've seen slow times since I've started having a pretty well viewed TikTok page, but I've never seen it like this. It's crazy. But anyway, so yeah, hit that. What'd you call it?
The Shero.
The Shero, the arrow that you share.
Yeah.
So yeah, it may be that people just aren't using TikTok as much now that Donald Trump is not president.
Yeah.
That could be true, but
Yeah.
everybody is saying something changed in the algorithm, and it's really weird. But okay, where was I?
The dream.
So there are times when I have enough times that people say you're a false teacher, or I have former friends or former attendees of my church who hate me now. Hate me, that's probably not the right word. Are really
you have fallen from grace.
Confused at why my message has changed quite a bit since the good old days. And so you do at times you start to say, maybe it's me, maybe I'm the problem here. And so, yeah, I've been kind of thinking about that. And so one of my friends and somebody on our prayer team this week said, hey, remember that dream you had a long time ago? So every once in a while I'll have a dream that seems somewhat significant in my life, and I'll write it down in my journal. And so this dream was about I'll just tell you I'm feeling really weird telling this story and how I'm conveying it.
Because you feel like it's too personal?
I don't know if people are going to get it. I don't know if they're going to get it.
It probably just go light on the details of the dream.
Anyway,
what it meant to you.
Basically, I was in this car and it was hanging off the edge of this cliff, and I thought we were going to go off the edge of the cliff and die. The car eventually does go off the edge of the cliff, and I'm sort of able to jump out of the car and magically, stick my hand in the water and guide myself to the edge of land, and I'm okay. And even at the time, so is that like this prophetic dream from heaven, or is that something in my core telling me what's going on around me? Or is it just I ate olive covered pizza that night and had a weird dream? I don't know. But I went back and read that dream this week out of my journal, and it just said, because sometimes we sort of say, okay, if you're riding in a vehicle, like that's your occupation, that's your ministry, that's what you do. And I dreamed that dream at a time when my occupation was, and my belief system was on it, kind of hanging off the edge of a cliff. And I thought I was going to die if I went over the edge. But I've actually found, like, I'm really happy that I went off the cliff, and I've been able to navigate to where I am today. And so that dream was able to affirm for me this week of like, okay, you're in the right place. You're doing the right thing. Don't freak out just because TikTok doesn't like you anymore. It's going to be okay. So anyway, I guess that's kind of that's the story you wanted me to tell.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think I want people to hear the hope in your voice, and the fact that I love what you said about it is actually God wants us to let go of the construct that sort of man and society have put on him. It's okay to let it go. It's okay to be in your darkest, deepest place of like, man, I used to have faith. I don't even know. I so appreciated the comments that were coming in about like, I think somebody said I went to get coffee, and the whole way there I was thinking about whether or not I should still believe in God. And there's more reason to not than to believe. And the religious culture would say like, don't you dare, don't you dare. And what you're saying is the heart of God is like, man, it's okay. I got you. And it's okay if you can't see me, if you don't see me, it's okay. It changes nothing about my view towards you and my support for you. And it's okay if you don't believe in me. It's okay if you don't pray the right prayer. Like none of that is from God, what the religious church has put on us. And so I think ultimately what I'm hearing and everything you're saying is like, you have been on this journey. You've navigated what felt like perilous waters. You navigated it, got to the shore, and like, you're safe and you're happy for the journey.
Yeah. It's like the old Matrix thing. Like, do you wish you didn't know what you know? And there may be times where it's kind of like, yeah, maybe I was a little bit happier when I was naive and didn't know any better. But gosh, no, when I get to tell a Reuben, like as a trans woman, God loves you passionately and he loves you just as you are. Why wouldn't I want to do that?
Yeah.
And the one thing I would say to somebody who's like, well, maybe I can't believe in God anymore. Like one of the things that happens, and I think this is what evangelicalism feeds into, is like, you either have to buy the whole bit or reject the whole bit. Like you're in or out, and those are your two choices. And I don't think that's true. I don't think you have to say like, well, I don't hate gay people and I'm not going to tell them they're going to hell, so I have to reject the whole thing. I think we can be on a continuum and working through the tension of the things we know. Because even for me, I made a determination like, I'm not going to tell gay people they're going to hell. I'm going to love them right where they are. But I can still see what the Bible says and go investigate how the Bible addresses this issue and do it with an open mind, because I'm going to love them no matter what I find out. And so that keeps us from doing these big swings of becoming sort of the other side of the same coin. I'm all the way in or I'm all the way out. No,
Yeah.
Instead just say, I don't have to believe the way I used to believe. And now I'm going to explore what my beliefs are now.
Okay, so changing topics just a little bit,
Okay.
back to the dream thing.
Okay.
I want to share this dream that I had, and this wasn't this week, but I'm telling you, okay, it's
You're going to set that aside.
that's
for
right. I'll hold it.
I'm not sure that's a safe place for
Okay,
you to
fine.
put it.
Okay, so this dream was so crazy and so instructive for the
Yeah.
last 4+ years. And by the way, all of my like friends and colleagues at work and stuff, like they know every morning I walk in, I'm like, I had this dream last night. So I am a very imaginative person. And I think there's probably 10 times more creativity and expression in my brain than I get to let out every day. And so
you do it in your
it
dreams.
just happens. And I'm not assigning meaning or anything. I mean, sometimes I actually do feel like, oh, it's helpful to kind of figure out what's going on in my head or whatever. But so this is one of my dreams. All right. This was I had this dream either right before Trump was elected in 2016 or
I think it was right after.
I think it was right after. Okay.
Yeah.
So in my dream, Paul and I were living in our old house. We live now in the second house we've lived in since we've been married. So it was our first house, and we didn't have kids at the time, but we were our same age, which is weird. Okay. So the dream is that President Trump came to our house here in Fresno on the Fit Garden Loop, and came in the house, and his like everything puffed up that you see on TV about like his personality. He walks in our house, and Paul and I are like, oh, welcome, Mr. President. You know, we knew he was the president. We were greeting him as such. He came in without his security detail, and he came in angry and blustery, and he was like, and he walks in, turns to the right. We had this little open living room area, and he's like, had some furnishings in it. He goes, I hate this furniture. I would change it. And he literally just like picked up couches, turned them upside down, put a little love seat on top of a china cabinet, turned it all upside down. And obviously it was a dream, so not real. And somehow the furniture would stay, but he'd flip everything upside down and leave it. And then he'd walk into the next room, and he went into our bedroom and he did that. And he went into the dining room and did that, and on. And we had this like kind of U-shaped house, and he went through the whole house and every room, walked in like, I hate this. I'm going to turn everything upside down. Did, and then walked out, and we were following along behind him. And every time he left one of the rooms, I would look at Paul, and you were looking at me because like I'm the like one who's been in elected office, so like I must know, you know, something about government or whatever. And Paul would look at me like, what's going on? And I would say, don't worry, we'll fix it when he's gone.
Yeah.
We'll fix it when he's gone. Don't worry, it's going to be okay. We'll fix it when he's gone. So I do that 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, our house wasn't that big, whatever. He gets through the house. It's like he's up to the last room where he's going in to do this. And he's inside the room. And I turn to Paul at the very end and I go, wait a second. This could be dangerous.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I flash in my mind to the security detail that's outside, all the guns they're carrying. And I'm thinking to myself, just get him out of our house and get him away from us, because this has gone from, yeah, it's kind of crazy, to no, this is downright dangerous. And now look, okay, so that dream was in 2016. There have been so many times when I was just,
and this
like,
was why we had very good friends around us saying, no, he's God's man. He's
Yeah.
God's man.
yeah.
And we're like, he doesn't seem like God's man.
Yeah. So like probably the last year of Trump being in office, probably the stuff about, you know, how he was trying to get the Ukraine stuff, you know, dirt on Biden, like things that probably since his first impeachment forward, every day I'm like, yeah, it's feeling a little dangerous. It's feeling a little dangerous. It's feeling a little dangerous, all the way up to January 6th. And I'm like, oh my God, literally, like people are dying. So that dream has been instructive for me.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, it's okay. We'll fix it. We'll fix it. We'll fix it, to like, he better leave soon. And that's ended up being like the last 4 years.
Yeah. And I think I've had people a lot say, well, you're a pastor. Why are you talking politics? And it's because this stuff is a danger to people's lives. It's a danger to the message of the Bible. It's a danger to the church. Donald Trump, I think I was reading the New York Times 77 days story. I think we got really lucky.
Yeah.
I think we got really lucky as a country.
So God's grace right there.
Like if he wasn't like really incompetent, he could have really destroyed our nation.
Yeah.
And I think he's done damage that's going to take a long time to clean up. And some of the crap is still out there.
Yeah.
But if he were smarter, I think he could have really upended democracy. And I think I think the dream is a good indicator of like, oh, wait, no, we can never let this happen again.
Don't take this for granted.
So a Marjorie Taylor Greene, we have to deal with that, because somebody like that, or a Josh Hawley or a Ted Cruz, who are Christians and are willing to use their Christianity, or Marjorie Taylor Greene to say any means to get in there and ban abortion is okay, are really dangerous people to our democracy.
And that's why you post the videos that you post. Yeah. And that's why you're trying to put words on, like, let's take apart sort of the evangelical wing that is one half, maybe slightly more, of the Trump base, with the other half being what we saw January 6th, right. Paramilitary and sort of anarchy and white supremacy. So the church partners with some really interesting things.
Darn it,
Gosh
guys.
darn, sorry, YouTubers.
I don't know what's going on today.
Anyway,
the devil's trying to get us to stop talking, or the Russians, maybe, I don't know. Somebody.
Or our ineffective homemade.
I've never had this problem though any other week. It's crazy.
Anywho, that's why Paul posts what he does. Is like, let's evaluate the arguments that bolster this evangelical political right. And I see people talking about abortion in the chat. I mean, it really comes down to abortion, homosexuality. And if we can, as Christians, or non-Christians, as rational thinkers, if we can like take that apart and look at it and really evaluate what the basis is, then we have a chance of hopefully uprooting this. And I will just say, which is worse? All of those feelings and thoughts and viewpoints being under the surface and there and animating people, or having it all exposed and come to a head? Because I'm actually torn on that question. Part of me was like, let's just pack it away and pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's God's best for any of us. I do think that, it's good to get it out, but like, man, it is also scary.
Yeah. I think, so Kristen's been asking a couple of times if we feel like we have the gift of discernment. So I actually feel like the gift of discernment is just wisdom, So I saw somebody talking about Jeremiah Johnson, a prophet. Like, I have zero trust for the prophets right now. Anybody that's in sort of the prophetic community in our stream of Christianity, I have zero trust for any of them, because I think we've bought in as into a groupthink that is kind of making everybody see these things. And we see these times in history in the Bible, in the book of Jeremiah, in the days of Jesus, where the prophets were prophesying falsely. And so I think we're under this groupthink. And so that's why we've had prophets around us saying, yes, Trump. Somebody asked, why do evangelicals believe Trump is God's man? This end times left behind stuff. There's going to be this, all these things happen. It's made it easy for people to believe. And so our prophets are saying, Donald Trump's going to have a second term, and are still saying it. And they said it was going to be, December 4th, and then December 18th, I think it was, and then January 6th, and then January 20th, and now it's March 4th. You just got it wrong, guys. Just admit you got it wrong. Repent, and let's start looking for where God really is in the season. So even if another prophet is coming along and saying, well, now I have this dream about Trump, I'm sort of like, okay, so let's discernment, like, how do we walk that out in wisdom? And I think kind of what we would feel from your dream, as opposed to like it being this gift of insight. It's just, we just know, like we Donald Trump was dangerous. It wasn't like he was benign and just a really bad president and a bad guy. And these people believe this and these people believe this. No, this is bad. This following of Donald Trump is bad for humanity. It's bad for our country, and it needs to be repudiated outright by every church in America. And so anyway, I guess that's where my gift of discernment lands. Sarah Reed on YouTube, by the way, says, wait, you live in Fresno?
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
You live in Fresno?
And the other news is somebody can post on YouTube now.
So there we go. Glad to know that. All right. Well, I also wanted to share one other thing from my week. So last week.
Did we explain that well? I think
know.
so. I don't know.
Well,
it says, yes, you are right, Paul. So I must have said something right there.
Yes, obviously.
I'm sort of thrown by our technical issues now. But go ahead. You talk.
So last week I made a comment.
Oh, yeah.
I made a comment about somebody asked a question in the chat, and they said, are libertarians the same as independents?
Another Fresno too.
I live in Fresno too.
Vanessa.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Vanessa.
Yeah.
And a Merced. Oh my gosh. Central
99.
Californians all over the
99
place.
corridor, baby. This is like the spine of California, for those of you who don't know. Like, we're like in the middle of the state. And Sarah's in Clovis. Thank you. Oh, that's cool.
Our family recently found you, and we love your message. Oh,
nice.
Well, nice to meet you, Sarah.
So a question was asked last week: are libertarians and independents the same thing? And I reacted, no, they're not. And I commented on how I worked with a person while I was at the city of Fresno who was libertarian, and I referenced his political views as being wacky, and it was really hurtful. And he let me know it, and we've talked it through. And it just was, first of all, I was really sad that I hurt his heart, because he has deep convictions. And I know that more than many people, if not most, all people that I worked with when I was in elected office. This person deeply, deeply holds his political views. And so I was really disrespectful and being like, he's wacky, or that's wacky. Though also I reminded him of all of the things I believe that he thinks are wacky. Yeah. So there's like a little bit of like, come on. I mean, we had a lot of like good back and forth with each other, and still do. But anyway, so we talked it out, and ultimately what we concluded was the fact that he really is on guard about the government left to run amok, does really destructive things. There is no doubt about that. There is absolutely no doubt about that. And from my view, like, holding that ideal doesn't change anything about the fact that we still got to fix the potholes in our town, that we still need to figure out how to diversify our economy, that we still need to make sure that, we're not a bottleneck for small businesses opening. Like, there's a practical side to, like, government needs to function that sometimes, a libertarian point of view at the local operational level gets in the way of just dealing with those practical things, because you're upset about the very governance structure in the first place. And so what we agreed was like, hey, you need to hold on to your views and fight for them, because of course the government needs to be kept in check. And, people who understand and appreciate the value of well-functioning government services need to be affirmed in doing that work, and not believing that government is the savior, of course, but like seeing the value of it. Like, we do have to have functioning infrastructure, right. So anyway, we reconciled on that point.
If you don't think, so the libertarian idea is like all government is bad. Like, government shouldn't even make roads.
I mean, I don't know, because I feel like
the pure libertarian. Yeah.
I don't know. Honestly, my friend would be willing to come on and like,
I'm not sure we want to get too deep into the weeds on that.
He could express it. I don't want to be the one expressing it.
So I'm not saying what he believes. I'm saying what I've talked. I have other friends who are libertarians. And so we've had this talk, like, you don't think government should build roads and airports. And they're like, private sector could do it better. And they'll point to like Elon Musk doing a space thing.
Tube or whatever. Yeah.
And he's now sending rockets into space.
Yeah, no, of course. But also he was trying to build a tunnel system under LA.
But we would say, well, you need government to do a big infrastructure process like going into space. And they're saying, no, the private sector is doing it better now. And so we talk about tension, live in the tension. Like, so if you need an idea of what good government and why somebody like Donald Trump, who all he wants to do is break down every system in the country, COVID would be a good example of when you need a good government system to do something that's just big and overarching, that there's just not a return on investment that can make a private industry take that on. And so you need government to do that. Fire and police, are we going to have that all be privatized? I don't think so. So we have to live in the tension of, yes, government can get out of control. And I think we would both agree that having a super majority party in a small, big country like California. I mean, California is bigger than a state. It's a pretty significant sized country. And we have a single majority super party here in the Democrats, super majority party.
Yeah.
Because the Republicans are nutso here. Sorry, we weren't supposed to say nutso wacko. The Republicans have lost such favor in the state, and we don't think it's good for the state. And most Democrats we know say, yes, you're right.
They're like, please,
we need another valid party to pull against that.
Some checks on us. It's so funny. It's actually, I hear that a lot from fairly senior Democratic leaders in California. Like, where did y'all go? We need you.
Yeah.
So.
And the problem is the Republican Party just went so far to the extreme and is still, now we're seeing that fight go on a national level. So they say California is the 8th largest economy in the world. I haven't checked it recently, but I know
it was the 5th.
We grew to the 5th largest economy in the world. But maybe it's not anymore. But yeah, like when Britain voted for Brexit, it dropped. California actually passed Britain in GDP and became the 5th largest GDP in the world. So much bigger than Texas GDP, by the way. Just want to point that out. Much larger than Texas GDP. Sorry, don't know why I need to say that twice. So there needs to be this tension of, let's not go all the way to one side or another. That's kind of always going to be a mantra.
Right. And, probably to land the plane, which thank you for, being on this little ride. Some of you on YouTube have literally felt the turbulence of our camera slipping off. But landing the plane from our discussion today, what blocks people from being able to navigate and hold the tension, like you just said, and kind of, as I heard it said a lot, like eat the meat and spit out the bones, so it's like, obviously there are things that Democrats espouse and value and that they're trying to make happen that are clearly good for everybody. Like, let's find a way to get those things to work well. There are values that are held center right, same thing. So the inability to kind of have that intellectual flexibility, at least on the right, oftentimes comes from this religious, rigid ideology. So it all comes down to, what you're trying to do here, Paul, is create space for people who have a religious background, or Christians, or maybe post-Christians, or whatever, to be able to understand, like, we gotta break up some of the root system that has bound us to a type of thinking and ideology that is actually not expressed in the Bible. And like the world needs us to be different. The world needs us to show up differently, because we are to be part of the solutions of things that, confront our cities and regions and state and all that. And we're just not able to do that if we're coming from that point of view of like that Christian nationalism thing.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, a year ago, I had never even heard the words Christian nationalism. And now it's a pretty commonly understood concept. So I personally see that as progress. Like, if you can name it, start to understand it, that helps you course correct.
Yeah. So somebody's asking what we consider ourselves, and I would say we consider ourselves followers of God. And I think the need to name ourselves or be named is a real problem. So I think we're people seeking solutions. And if it comes from a Republican or a Democrat, who cares? Let's go after the right answer for a group of people. And so I see somebody is sort of listing all the problems of California, as if California is, we're the only state that has homeless people. And California is a big, big state, and it has many problems. You can't deny that it's still the largest GDP of any state in the country, but yes, there are real significant problems, and those have to continue to be tackled.
Yep. And they can be fixed. I mean, it's, there is just the current that runs deep in California is creative and fun and freedom. I mean, there's something really special about this place. We're both transplants, and there are significant challenges on the surface. So we just gonna have to course correct.
Yeah. And that landing on that idea that my side is right and the other side is all wrong, that you know, even as you were running and got an endorsement from a Democrat, Ashley was being told by Republicans, like, if you take that endorsement, you're killing babies, you know, was essentially what they were saying. You're making abortion possible and you're killing babies. You know, that thinking is the problem. If you have to totally demonize the other side, that's a real problem. And so even Democrats need to be able to say, hey, right thinking people like Mitt Romney, you know, we want to highlight that because we need good people on both sides of the aisle to come to solutions. So, you know, let's stop with just like California has to be all bad and horrible. It's not. You know, those stories are way overplayed, mostly by Texas leaders trying to steal businesses from California. But then we have to be able to say, and yes, there are real problems that we're having trouble tackling. And some of it may be that we sort of have this one party system that needs to be broken up a little bit. So all of those things can be true at the same time, and we have to keep working them through. But if you decide like liberals have to be all bad, California has to be all bad, like so many Christians have like, oh, California is evil, then you start making really bad choices and bad decisions and get yourself put in silly, silly places.
Okay, so we have been going for about an hour.
Yep.
We're so excited for those of you. Some of you are just popping on. Thank you for taking a quick second and checking out this live feed. But we've been talking for a long time, so we're probably going to be wrapping this up here pretty quick. But let me just say that I sit. Let me think how to say this. So our little routine in our COVID world, where we're both still working from home, is after dinner, Paul and I sit down on the couch in front of the fire, and I'm working, I'm going through my emails, and he's going through your comments, and he's sharing some with me, you know, oh, this person's saying this, or, oh my gosh, this is happening in this person's life. And it really means so much to us. And we absolutely love the connection that's happening through this platform. I know on the surface, it seems kind of weird, like, oh, you can't have a relationship with people who are sharing 60-second videos and like 2 or 3 sentence comments. I get that in my rational brain, but also, man, there is special connectivity that's happening at Nonpartisan Evangelical and Old Pastor Paul. And I just want you to know, like, we really are feeling connected. I do pray for things that you guys comment on or things that you ask for prayer for. In our own little way, we're thinking about like, how could we help if somebody reaches out, needs a resource, how could we help connect that person with the resource? And so anyway, I just want to say, like, this means a lot to us, and we thank you for hanging out with us.
Somebody wants to know what your TikTok page is. You're not really a creator on TikTok.
No, I'm kind of shy on social media. I think it comes from being a mayor when Facebook really took off and Twitter, and looking back on it, those days were mild compared to now, but I was just head down, do my job, you know, had my staff handling social media. And I just found like it wasn't really helpful to take in social media and trying to navigate things I needed to do as an elected official. And so I never really totally got into it, but Paul loves it, so I hang out with him.
So this is what we love. Cindy says, I'm a liberal, and this platform has helped me to see that I can still be a Christian.
Yeah.
And those are the comments that mean everything to us.
Yep.
I'm an atheist now. I left the church when I was young, but now I'm reading the Bible. You know, those are amazing. And that's a real privilege for us to get to do that. Or Sarah here, who says, you know, the family recently found you. We love your message. Thank you for today's talk. We'll join and watch you on TikTok tomorrow. Amazing. So yeah, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Pacific time, we have a spiritual gathering. You can either see it live streamed through TikTok. We don't do that on YouTube because I don't know why exactly.
Well, isn't it hard to get Zoom and YouTube to?
Now we're Zooming to YouTube right now. So
Oh,
I guess we
okay.
could do it to YouTube as well,
Okay.
couldn't we? If you joined in the middle of our discussion today, or if you missed my Bible chat this morning, you can go to YouTube to the Pastor Paul channel and see him there. Go to pastor-paul.com, the events contact page, and you can get the link to join us for the spiritual gathering tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Pacific. Also this week, I'm releasing another segment of the audiobook series. So if you go to our Patreon page, you can hear the audiobook. And I also do some exclusive commentaries on there. So it's really cool.
And
So
I've been
check that
listening.
out.
So while Paul's in here recording, like you can hear his booming voice through the whole house. So I've heard it already, and it's fantastic. So yeah, check that out.
All right, guys. Well, we speak blessing over your oikos, your household. It's a Greek word called oikos, and it means everybody in your family, in your circle, your
People you
friends, your
connect to.
coworkers,
Yep.
anybody you have influence on, the supermarket that you go to all the time. We just pray blessing over your circle for Sarah and her family in Clovis and all our TikTok friends. Thank you for joining us and hanging out with us this morning. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. See you soon.
All right. Bye, YouTube. We'll say bye to YouTube first. Thanks for joining. And sorry for those of you who couldn't chat. Oh, Rio now says it. Rio, good to see you. Yeah, you can